You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it. Welcome to episode number 147 of the Last Breath Huntcast, presented by Badlands Gear. Discount code for Badlands is LastBreath22BL30, all uppercase on their website. That will get you 30% off of any item of your choice. And our second partner, Outdoor Edge, LBTV25. That'll get you 25% off, and I believe free shipping from OutdoorEdge.com. All those characters are uppercase as well, with no spaces in between. So, Garrett and I are here today, and we've got a good request for you.
Yeah, so it's good to be back. We took a short reprieve. We need to probably just talk about that. Grant has been super slammed. Grant's really, his home is the host of the podcast. That's where the studio's at. We're up in his kind of office space, and you guys have seen it before. Mounts, computer, TV, the whole shebang. But we talked about it a little bit in detail. He has accepted a position as a principal. He's been finishing up the year end of school as he's been a teacher, and then he's had tracks, so sectionals, state, a lot of other important meets that he had to run to, and really we've just been stretched thin, kind of like not enough butter on too much bread, but we're back. We're going to slam. You guys will not have, hopefully, another delay or a little lapse in our podcast for a long, long time. And today is one that's actually a listener request or a website request.
Yep.
Kind of interesting because I know where I stand on the subject, and I know that there's a lot of people that agree with me, but there are a ton of people out there. I shouldn't say a ton. There's a lot of people out there that somehow don't like this. So
it's very hot button right now.
And it's interesting. So I'm going to bring up some topics. So hopefully, I wish I had a counter arguer with me, and maybe they can chime in because they had enough gumption to message us, and if they follow the podcast, if they follow the show at all, they know that we are definitely a fan of doing this. And so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so our topic for today, as noted in the introduction, this is the home of the Huntroversy, and our controversial topic today, which is a topic in hunting that maybe doesn't have a right or a wrong side, that's highly debatable, and in this case, a really prevalent hot-button issue given the time of year it is reaping and fanning turkeys ethical or not? So I'll tell you how this came over the desktop. So Brandon Dibble, I did ask him if it was okay that I read his name. He said, an idea I have for a controversy is reaping for turkeys. There are many people, including myself, that thinks it's unethical. And I said, is it okay if I share your name? What are your reasons for being against reaping? And he replied with, I think it's just kind of cheating in a way because it really doesn't take any skill. I've seen birds killed from reaping that were henned up. Fanning, or a gobbler seeing a turkey fan rather, triggers an instinct in a wild turkey that basically makes them be overcome by their territorial rage. So that's the simplest and most unbiologic way of putting it. So it takes absolutely zero skill whatsoever as the hunter. Anybody can kill a turkey these days. It's not like a deer. There's literally videos of guys standing on top of a hill holding a turkey fan 6 feet in the air, and toms come running in from 200 yards away, and they shoot them at point blank range. I do not believe that is hunting at all. So that was his response. Thank you, number one, Brandon, for requesting that and sending that in. We really appreciate you listening to what we have to say. And this is a good one. So initial thoughts. I believe his main argument is that it's exceptionally easy, and that he thinks it's cheating because it doesn't take as much skill as killing a turkey a more traditional route. That's what I think he's getting at here. I don't know if it he did say earlier as well, there are many people, including myself, that think it's unethical. So there's kind of two questions in here. Is it too easy? Is it cheating? And is it unethical? So, initial thoughts. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll try to be as polite and delicate as possible. In my mind, I feel like as an outdoorsman, myself included, and I have a lot of things that I believe is unethical or immoral to do, but is perfectly legal within the realms of hunting in this great country of ours. You can't tell somebody how to fill their tag. And As much as like I said, I feel like there are some things that I'm very strongly against, and even in Illinois, I can't tell anybody that has their right as a citizen to buy a hunting license, buy a tag, and whether they're hunting on public or private ground, by any means that they can legally fill that tag. That's where I stand. Now, when you want to talk about my opinion on it, I have seen toms that don't charge decoys. I mean, we've had numerous encounters where we've had the submissive turkeys that'll keep that 50, 60 yard, maybe 40 yard buffer to a decoy or to a fan. I guess that to me is...
I think what he's talking about is your hard chargers, as Ozzy calls them. Yeah.
If he's worried about inethicness, I would wonder, I mean, does he rifle hunt? If he's worried about the ease of hunting, is he okay with hunting with a firearm that allows you to shoot extended ranges? Does he only hunt with a bow and arrow? Does he only hunt with a longbow? I mean, define ease of hunting? And then, we've talked, we're going to get into it again. What are his thoughts on hunting roost trees? There's not much skill involved in that. You go sit up against the roost tree or 20 yards from the roost tree. You wait for him to come back in the evening, which we cannot do here in Illinois. But lastly, I guess the thing that comes down to it to me is that it doesn't matter how you kill turkeys, when any state that you do, whether it's with a bow, a shotgun, a rifle, you reap them, you don't use decoys, you don't use calls. You still only have a certain amount of tags you can fill legally by the state, which is, sanctioned by the governing body, whether it's your Fish and Game or Division of Natural Resources, etc. So you're allowed 2 tags. You can fill 2 tags. Doesn't matter how you fill them. That's your quota. Period. At the end, there's some type of equation that involves into this to allow that we have a consistent and a sustainable herd, flock, if you will, to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess where does the line get drawn? Because we've seen a lot of prolific professional hunters that reap, but then also do like some hybridized styles of reaping where they'll flash them, run back to their decoys where they're set up with their fancy cameras, and kill them. I mean, is that acceptable then? There's a lot to discuss, and I think we're going to break it all down, but those are my opening thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray area in here, and I think this question isn't necessarily about hunting for turkeys for me. I do think it opens the door to the question that I really think this is all about, which is where's the line in the sand, in the outdoors, in hunting in general, that makes something, air quotes, too easy. And I've got some examples written down here. As of right now, I think that going back on my own turkey count, I've killed probably in the mid-20s in terms of birds. You've killed in probably the low to mid-30s. Same with Matt. And I feel like the number of turkeys that we've killed that were hard chargers, that we fanned or we reaped and they came immediately, is probably somewhere around the 25 to 35% mark. I think it's somewhere around a third of the birds that we killed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like for me, I didn't turkey hunt this year, unfortunately, just because of track and finishing up grad school and things of that nature. But last year, I killed 2 birds. One was a reap. One was a traditional setup with a decoy sitting on your butt, leaned up against a tree. So I don't feel like it's...
To highlight that, I would say that the ones we set up with your decoys and called in, they charged way harder than your reap.
Yeah.
The reap walked casually to cut the distance to 40, 45 yards where he stopped, and you're like, I'm going to take him.
Yep.
He's done, where literally when you and Alan hunted and we set up, those birds came out in the field about 150 yards away, and it was a foot race to get to our decoys.
Mm-hmm. A couple other things I feel like I was thinking about. Number one, for us in Illinois, and I know that we're not the only state that does it like this, but there are, I believe, a lot of states that allow full-day hunting, and I would argue that leaning up against a roost tree after work, maybe for 90 minutes before the turkeys get there and shooting them as they're going back up to the tree is probably the easiest way, and I know that people in other states do that. The reason why I think that this is in the forefront truly of a lot of people's minds right now is because of outdoor content. So like us, I'll give you an example of like something that we put out. So number one, if we don't do a good job of marketing a thumbnail, marketing a title, making it look eye-catching, making the episode like more up-tempo, on YouTube, it's going to get flattened. And it didn't really make sense for me to spend 8 or 10 hours in my office making that video if it's going to get seen, by 1,000 people, let's say. Whereas if we do a good job, which you have to, if you're going to get any sort of traction on any sort of social media, you have to do something that is sort of eye-catching. So I feel like the argument and what's making this really a hot button issue right now is more so the fact that outdoor content is being so heavily policed and restricted by the platforms that they are on. And that's my 2 cents. That's why I think it's getting really, really hot and rampant right now, because reaping a turkey, it's been around for a while, but it really in the last like 3 or 4 years as it hit the mainstream to the point where it's just kind of a more entertaining show, I would argue, than a traditional, here comes a turkey, comes and pecks around on a decoy for a while, and then you shoot it. It's pretty crazy, especially if you've got a couple different camera angles. And that's not why I'm saying that. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I just think the byproduct of why this is out there so much is because people in the outdoor space who are content creators are attempting to hook viewers into a style of turkey hunting that's more engaging than a standard turkey hunt. So I feel like it's just out more. And and we could talk about YouTube for 10 hours alone on this, but I won't bore you with that. So that was my thought, was like, all right, I would argue it's more unethical to lean up against a roost tree. Like, that would be easier because we do fail when we reap. There are times when turkeys run the other way. There are times when turkeys moving around as we're making our move. Typically, if you're really good at using topography, you can be really dangerous using this method. I did want to put a little earmark about like my thoughts on public land. I do feel like that's very dangerous, and I'm thankful that that is not legal. So I do agree with the fact that out there on public land where anybody can be out there, that it would be pretty darn dangerous to be behind a fan on the backside of a hill, or a reaper decoy that looks highly realistic that's fully feathered. You would not want to do that. But in terms of, the question, it's about hunting in general, like where's the line of being too easy, and then the idea of this difference between legal and ethical. So where it is legal, I do feel like the question that peels back the question about ethics is more so about how easy should hunting really be for anything. Like, are we going to throw out food plots? Are we going to throw out crossbows? Are we going to throw out rifle hunts, high fence hunts, any hunt that's done with a firearm, any hunt that's done with a compound bow? And I don't know where the line is on that, personally, and I have a tough time fleshing out that line for myself. So
my 2 cents on ethicness, and I know that's a word.
Ethics.
The ethical principles behind reaping a turkey is that more times than not, I find that you're going to have a very ethical opportunity, right? It's we found that probably, I would say, almost all of our reaping tactics, when we've done it, we've killed our birds under 40 yards, and probably a majority of them are going to be under 20 yards.
Yep.
Where inversely, I see that guys that are more traditional out there that use decoys have resorted to finding new blends of ammo and new chokes, which allow them to shoot, they
60,
believe,
70, 80, 90 yards.
Correct. So where's the ethics there? And I know for me personally, I would rather take a closer shot than a further shot, and because nobody's going to restrict you. It's always like out there, it's 80 yards is too far, you cannot shoot, that's illegal,
Right.
But yet we have all these new not new companies coming out with new shots, new blends, new choke tubes, and they say this in a 3-inch or 3.5 inches good to 75 yards, 80 yards. That is a shot. I mean, that's a hell of a shot on a deer.
Yeah.
Let alone a turkey with a shot load. So I don't know. I do believe you are 100% when this gentleman talks about ethics, he is talking about the ease.
It's the ease
of it
for him, I think, is
right?
what I'm getting from this. Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, we have a lot of people in our family that turkey hunt. They all know that we've reaped, and I've we've helped our father-in-law. I've helped my father-in-law reap some turkeys, and yet he doesn't do it. I think there is a physical aspect to reaping, or at least in the way that we do it. Now, we've never been as lucky to be able to literally walk out into a field and hold a fan 6 feet high and get away with it. More times than not, we've had to belly crawl, kneel, duck walk, literally knee scoot to be able to get into position to make it happen. So it is something that I think, it definitely not something everybody can do. And in fact, we made a decoy to make it a little bit easier for us. But another question I would have for this gentleman is, what are his thoughts on decoying other species? Whitetail Adrenaline's very famous for their deer decoy that they use. They literally charged bucks and shot bucks. Or there's the heads-up decoy line that you literally wear the helmet if you're a deer, an antelope, or an elk. A lot of archery elk hunters will use a full-sized silhouette decoy to stalk within range of antelope bucks. Now, I don't know biologically the phenology, the thought process of those other animals, but for the most part, I think generally speaking, we can agree that most male species of a wildlife during the breeding season
are
is
territorial,
right?
Yep.
That's why you rattle in bucks, and that's why you bugle in elk, and that's why you call in turkeys, and that you're going to probably get the same triggered response with the other animals using a similar type of decoy. I don't know. I guess if it was that easy, I feel like there would be so many people that would just automatically do it. If it was a guarantee, if
that's
all
what
I needed was
I think
a
it's
fan.
because of the marketing and why it's out there right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say that I believe that doing this to a turkey is, and I'm going to get into this in a second, is easier than those things you just mentioned. Like to go and physically carry a whitetail buck shield like the Whitetail Adrenaline guys do, that is demanding on you. That is tricky. That could... that's a whole new realm of ethics.
I think the reason why reaping turkeys, I should say live decoying turkeys, is easier than live decoying other animals is simply, in fact, because they're more visible.
Yep.
How often in times do you see a mature whitetail buck out in the middle of a field where you're like, ooh, I can stalk up and get him, right?
Yeah.
Where they're
walking
just
in a circle with his ears tucked back.
And that's why I think antelope are also just kind of in that same bracket of availability to do this with because of where they're at, because you can spot them from so far away and they're like, okay, I'm going to, instead of, there's not much topography, but when we've gone, right, you start your stalk from 500 yards out behind this decoy and you're bouncing from cactus to cactus to cover your body. I feel like that's why the other game is not as available to do because, again, like I said, how often do you see a deer?
It's more hidden. That
you want to kill, even more so on your property,
right?
Right. To do this on. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to get into just like our typical morning of turkey hunting. So this is kind of how we hunt turkeys to set the record straight, because we do have several videos on our YouTube channel and that we've cranked out before about us reaping turkeys. And I'm 100% not going to sit here and say that we don't, because we definitely do.
Absolutely. Love doing it.
Here is how we, I guess, go and set up. We will take our decoy spread into the best location. Maybe that's one decoy. Maybe that's no decoys. Maybe that's with a blind, without a blind. It can vary just based upon the situation in the farms, because there are certain farms, as we all know, that just seem to hunt a little bit differently. So we go in there with the intention fully of hopefully having that dream turkey hunt where we have our bird killed by sunrise and they come gobbling in, screaming in the whole way into our decoys, and then we shoot them at 15, 20 steps, and that's it. But sometimes that fails. So when turkeys get quiet, around that 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock time, we'll have our secondary spot in between those. But then when turkeys are quiet, I'm at the point where I am a believer of the question, how can you kill a silent turkey? I think that most people are killing turkeys based upon acoustics, based upon getting them to shock gobble. And I'm talking about the turkeys that's like after 9 or 10 a.m., after the
hardcore
morning gobble has taken place and everything's just pitch quiet. So that's the time that we're reaping them in. We're not going out for the first several hours of the morning like, oh, there he is. He's really fired up. Let's go reap one at 6:45 in the morning. That's not what we're doing. We're going to our original spot. We're going to our secondary spot. And about 40% of the time, we're encountering turkeys, getting them close, sealing the deal, or just like some kind of, freak thing like a coyote happens or something like that where it doesn't end up working out. And then we'll hop to the secondary spot on the farm where we're like, all right, turkeys go here mid-morning. And then we'll go there. And then we're like, all right, it's 10 o'clock. We haven't heard a gobble in an hour. We only have till 1. And that's where I do feel like in Illinois, one of the reasons why I support this method to a degree is that, we do only have till 1. So if you look at your standard turkey hunter that doesn't take first season off in any regard and has 3 turkey tags, he has 6 mornings to go and get it done. And we'll say that probably 1 or 2 of those mornings are going to be shot because of like some heavy
Spring
rain
weather.
or heavy wind where you're not going to be able to A, hear turkeys, or B, want to sit out there yourself unless you were in a hard-sided blind or something like that. So I feel like just the time aspect of it, that I am in support of somebody that wants to go and kill a turkey using this method, because like I said, this is like the backup plan. It's not our primary plan to go out there and do this and have these theatrics of turkeys running in, even though it is a really cool, like energetic and energizing experience. It's not our primary plan. It's that, oh crap, we struck out, something happened in the morning where we couldn't get one killed in the decoy spread. Now let's go to a different place where we have permission, and maybe that is majority field typically of the breakdown between like timber and field. That's majority field that maybe a tom is spinning in. Then we'll ask ourselves, can we get to that tom? We don't ever like hop out of our truck with the decoy. We will go and we'll park it. We'll probably walk somewhere between 800 and 1.5 miles yards-ish.
Yep.
In order to get to a place where we think if the turkey stayed put, that we'll be safe to try to lure them in with the reaper. So I don't feel like it's as easy as some of those videos portray it to be online, where it's, the title of the video is Amish guy who's literally has a fan like that's covering his face and the rest of his, overall covered body is covered by nothing, and he's just walking in a flat, straight field. We haven't had anything like that. Like, we have had gobblers bust when we try to do this tactic. If somebody doesn't know how to use the reaper decoy, you can still easily mess this up. But if you're smart about this and you can read topo really, really well, this is a really, really deadly tactic. And I will admit, like myself, when I read this, I was like, the ethics. I do think it's not arguable that it's much easier. Like, if you get a turkey in, we'll call it the perfect spot, and you know how to get to him without revealing yourself, your personal self, and you can get that reaper decoy into like the perfect place, and that's just being able to read land. I feel like it is really deadly, and it's just like, yep, put it up, and they're here within 30 seconds. So I will concede, my belief is that, getting to his question about it being easier, I do think that it's an easier method than harvesting a turkey in a traditional way, because the amount of time that we spend, air quotes, strictly reaping is much less. But I would argue that the minutes we spend reaping would yield more turkeys if we divided it out, like a percentage of time invested versus number of birds killed. I would argue that the time differential and the payout is greater and higher in that period of time, just with how quick it happens.
I think that it's when it's the right scenario. My counter argument to that is then why didn't all of us that hunted this year, why didn't we all fill all of our tags? Jesse and I, we had an unsuccessful reap. Henderson County, when I was with Logan, had a tom 350 yards away from us. We heard him gobble once. We took Teddy, our reaper decoy, and kind of crept along. I'm not saying it works
every time. I'm just saying
me
that
neither. Dude, if you're going to say that it's easier, I don't know how to compare that, because there's been hunts where it's like you said, we're done by sunrise, and those hunts don't get any easier than that. We go in, we set up, we set our decoys, do a couple tree yelps, and then maybe cackle fly down, and it's like, man, that That was we literally that was easy.
Yep.
You know, I feel like, and just as you alluded to earlier with YouTube, there's a lot of success stories around this because obviously even us, we're not going to show, I'm not going to show where Jesse crawled out into the field about 30 yards. The Tom was 250 yards away, full strut, did a round, and it was flat as a pancake. And he looked back to me. I'm like, you just got to stand there, man. I don't know what to tell you, And the Tom just walked off. We're not going to show that. That's not engaging. What would have been engaging is if that Tom would have said, "Yup," and
screamed over.
Right. But you have, like we've talked about before, in our reaping methods, we believe that you have to break that bubble. Jesse was too far, and so we didn't do that. But I mean, that's my whole counter argument of that. If reaping is so easy, then and all of us have tried it on the team. There's a pile of us this year that literally didn't kill any turkeys, hunted their butts off.
Yep.
Reaped a lot.
Yep.
With this success should be almost 100%. I mean, I just think it's like anything. When you get the recipe right, whether you're set up for a turkey off the roost or you're set up on their strut zone or you reap, when you get that right, yes, it always works easy because you struck every chord right,
I think what the deadly thing in this scenario is being able to identify a scenario when you can pop the bubble.
Correct.
Meaning you've got that gobbler that's in a location adjacent to a ditch or a low spot that you yourself can get into in an amount of time that's fast that doesn't permit him to make it too far off and maybe hopefully still be in the field in his general area. That's the secret sauce, and that doesn't happen very often.
No, and when it does, that is the right, just like you said, the secret recipe for success, and we get yielded that success. And I don't know.
This method works when you're probably within, I would say, 150-ish yards of a turkey.
Yeah.
And, like he said, the territorial response is, "Oh, you snuck up on me. Now my blood..." It's like fight or flight for the turkey.
Yeah.
So I'm still on the fence. I think when you find those scenarios, though, it is just, if you're smart about concealing your body, flashing it, I do feel like there's probably more turkeys killed as of a means of fanning or using some kind of reaper decoy. But then my thing is, and I just keep coming back to it, is where do you draw the line on how easy hunting should be? I don't know. I don't know where that...
You gotta stop hunting coyotes with a rifle? It's just a slippery slope. To me, I guess what I said earlier, you get your certain amount of allotted tags that you applied for. You have a maximum amount of turkeys you can harvest in the state or the area that you hunt. Does it matter how you kill them?
At least in Illinois, and I know some state DNRs are sloppy and super duper duper liberal about the amount of turkeys that can be harvested and killed, but the Illinois DNR, I'm not going to sit here and A, say that I'm a biologist because I would be bullshitting, or B, that I have a pulse on the county population of every turkey statewide in Illinois. And so I do feel like when you look at the general outdoors hunting population, that probably what I just said is true for about 98 or 99% of people, that you don't really have the pulse on the population or the breeding habits or the biological ecosystem that a wild turkey lives in, to the point where you can make calls. People that get pissed off on Facebook will just say, "We ain't seen a damn turkey all year," and blah 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 blah, is killing them with reaper decoys and piling them in the beds of a truck, and there's 30 turkeys dead, or blah 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 blah, whatever. But Illinois, our turkey population, in my opinion, if the DNR didn't want those amount of turkeys dead, then they would restrict the amount of tags, which they do. Once the turkey quota is shut off for, let's say, one of the counties we hunt, Rock Island County, then boom, it's done. You can't buy any more turkey tags there because of the population, because of the check-in and things like that. So I don't know.
I think that I will say, and I've said this before openly, I feel like turkeys are one of those resources that the land owners in that area really need to be understanding of their flock. Turkeys, to me, do not migrate and do not have the reproduction rate as deer. Do they have clutches? Yes, but you have to understand, with a turkey, one nest raider and the whole clutch is gone. The other thing is too, is the tom that's in your drainage or that's in your block of timber, He's not going to travel during the spring freaking fever. He's not going to go 3 miles south like a buck sometimes would.
Yep.
You know, so it is very easy, I believe, to over-harvest your farm or your area. And I can see how guys would say, like, man, the neighbors started reaping this year.
And they killed all these turkeys.
But yet they would have killed all those turkeys had they called them in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did reaping help? Possibly. Maybe. It did in this scenario that I'm portraying right now. But it was still within their legal means.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a negative on them for understanding, okay, like, hey, I really, there was 5 toms in the field come youth season when I was hunting with my cousin, and we've killed 3. You know, there's not these other toms that are just coming in from miles away to breed your hens. No. They're pretty isolated groups.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you process it, like we do a really good job. Me and you we have like a rule. You know, we usually each get 3 different tags for 3 different counties even, let alone farms.
Yeah, we don't go and dump in 5 tags on our best farm. Our best farm, we kill 2 birds at a year, and that's it. Because we know that, you know, we have a group of about 12 toms that all get to territorial, and they disperse in the spring, and some of them go stay on the neighbors, a couple of them stay on us, a couple of them go across the road, but we don't kill. We don't each get 3 tags for this county that we're talking about, where our best farm is, that we have, you know, the most
Birds
control
on.
over,
Yeah.
the most birds on, whatever. And that's just something that we do. But getting back to it, though, I don't know. The cheating thing, it doesn't really take any skill. I would argue that I've seen more reap attempts fail than succeed. I would argue that.
Especially
me.
Especially without somebody helping you. You know, like,
yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
Here you go, man. Here's a fan. Or
Yep.
heck, here's Teddy. Go kill that turkey. I'm not going with you.
Yeah.
I would like to see how that happens. Like,
Yep.
Again, I feel like back to your statement earlier about YouTube, there's a lot of success generated around this, and there's a lot of clips and TikToks and Instagram reels of this, because more times than not, it's probably not the guy that for the first time ever decides to pick up a fan and go do it, because he's not filming himself. It's the guy that's got it figured out, that's like, okay, we got this bird in a spot that's pretty good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Run the camera. I'm going to throw the GoPro on, and this is going to be kind of crazy. Right?
Yeah.
And that's where you're having it. Because, again, I know, like, there are videos floating around of these guys being absolutely silly with them. But, man, we've seen turkeys chase lawnmowers. You know, we've seen turkeys chase cars.
Yep.
I mean,
get on the hoods of a car. Matt and I were at some public land last year when we killed his bird, and there was a turkey that legitimately jumped on the hood of his truck.
right.
Like a Jake.
Yeah.
A Jake jumped on the hood of his truck.
And, like, I understand that there are those anomalies. They're going to be there everywhere, right? Like the guy that has a buck walk right up to him. You know, things like that happen. I feel like that it really isn't as easy as it sounds unless you've got it figured out. Just like turkey calling. I would say Chris Parrish can probably calling a turkey better than me and better than 99% of them Americans, right? Because the dude literally can talk turkey.
Yep.
Is that cheating? Because he figured out how
because he's so good at calling.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, so now what? Chris, you're too good. You can only use a slate. Like,
right.
God
Spit
damn
that
it!
diaphragm out.
Give me that diaphragm. Right. You know, I don't know.
I think it would be a little different per that. And I also feel like, going back to what you just said, that kind of sparked an idea in my own brain. Most of the people that are doing this have killed a lot of turkeys. Like, they've killed their fair share of turkeys, and they're like, I just want to try something different. Similar to a person that is just a prolific bow hunter that's killed, you know, countless amounts of Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett whitetails with their compound bow. That's like, you know what? I want a new challenge.
Recurve.
I'm going to go to a recurve. And I'm not saying that, you know, reaping or fanning is or isn't less easy, but I would almost guarantee you, if you had the inverse scenario and you, like you said, you gave a person that is brand new to turkey hunting
or just never done it
or just never reaped, if you gave them a fan or a decoy, like I said, you have to be really, really, really good at spotting the scenario. Like there are turkeys that are
And
spinning
reading it.
and knowing when to go, when to not, when to be aggressive, when to play it safe. Like there are turkeys that you and I see spinning in fields sometimes during turkey season, and we're like, we just can't get to that turkey. That would be foolish for us to go out and burn an hour because we are quite literally on the clock right now.
Yeah.
Like the minutes are going by, the minutes turn into hours, and now before you know it, our morning is over. And so for us, I think what makes us pretty good at killing turkeys, at hunting them, is knowing how to identify situations in which we can't win and being very, very flexible and fluid. Like we don't let the turkeys that we're hunting off the roost go 3 miles in one direction and like, oh, they'll come back, I hope we think. No, we bail onto another farm because we know the importance of having a couple different farms per county that we can go on to have a backup plan, because turkeys are not headed. And no matter how good we call and no matter how much realism we put into the calls, how great our decoy spread looks, the distance from the spread to the roost tree, like sometimes turkeys just go the other way. And we're just flexible about saying, okay, now we're going to bail somewhere else, and we're going to, first things first, when we see a turkey and it's spinning in a field, number one, you can't always get to it. So there are plenty of turkeys that live to see another day because we just cannot possibly make it work. And then number two, we go and we crow call. We go and we hit a hoot owl call.
And right back up.
And if there is a turkey that's going to play ball with us, we set back up immediately with our standard, air quotes, traditional setup, whether we have a decoy spread or not, whether we're just sitting on our butts being nice and quiet and scratching leaves. And I just feel like what makes us good isn't the fact that we have a reaper decoy. Is that a valuable tool in the arsenal? Yes, but the valuable tool for any turkey hunter is when to be flexible and when to read a scenario. Know that you probably can't win this battle for us, it's 1 p.m., and saying, okay, here's my backup plan because I planned for a backup plan.
Right.
We had it in place that we weren't just going to go to this one farm that's an hour and a half away from our house and think, oh, well, we struck out. Time to be done. It's 8:30. They went the other way. We're done now. No.
Or sit there until 1 o'clock and not see anything.
No, like in a typical turkey hunting day when we have to hunt the whole time, we're all covered in sweat, we're all nasty, covered in mud, our knees are covered in mud, and it's because we were busting ass all morning trying to just get close, trying to pull something off. It wasn't, I'm just going to stand out in the middle of the field with my boots, knees, waist, and chest exposed, expecting this tom to come walking up to me. So I do feel like there's a misconception. And another thought that I had on this is I feel like as the outdoor community, I feel like outdoor community members really do a good job of picking and choosing who they hate and want to hate for doing certain things where other people can get away with it. I'll give you a good example. Earlier, you mentioned something about a person will flash a turkey, and then they will go back to their traditional setup, and then you will see that happen. Well, the Drurys do that. They go live on Facebook. About three springs ago, you remember you and I were talking about doing it. Like, man, that's crazy how they do that. They will go and take the fan. They'll flash it out in the middle of the field. They'll
get them to commit.
They'll get them to commit. They'll hustle back to their decoy spread, and then they'll shoot them on 4K at 120 frames a second.
Which is awesome. I'll watch it.
Yeah,
every time.
And I'll watch it too.
But is that unethical?
But let's not play this game that's I'm going to hate on this person with 2,000 YouTube subscribers, but because this person is an established dynamo within the industry, it's okay for them to do. Michael Waddell does more standing up for every hunter than any other hunter, like
and
when he's live on
turkeys.
Facebook
I've
and Instagram,
him.
and he's reaped turkeys as well before too. So I feel like as an outdoor person, don't stick your foot in your mouth in one regard and take it out in the other regard, because there are certain teams, podcasts, whatever that people follow that we're all aware of that just spew a bunch of bullshit that have an audience that's basically, pulled the wool over their eyes, quote unquote, and they can just say or do whatever they want with no repercussions or discourse about it. Mm-hmm. And so that happens rampantly, and I do think that that's one of my counter arguments to this is I feel like there are certain groups that turn a blind eye when somebody does something versus the other. For example, you talked about whitetail adrenaline earlier. I'm just stating a fact. I don't hate the guys. I think they're pretty damn good hunters. They've killed a ton of big bucks.
Giant.
Aggressive hunters.
Super.
Nobody is as aggressive as they are.
Fuck,
but
no.
But I've also seen them shoot at deer running on deer drives.
Yeah.
What's your stance on that? Because if you're going to love them in one regard, but say that you're against a running shot on a whitetail in another regard, then what are you doing? It's okay in certain scenarios for them to do this, and it's not okay in other scenarios for them to do it. I just don't. That's one thing that upsets me when I watch and I hear about these things, is because you've got these certain groups that are just it's easier for people to hate, and it's total hypocrisy. Yeah. It's saying one thing, believing another, but allowing somebody else to do that and be okay with it.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. And so I feel like, just generally speaking, like you said earlier, and we've been alluding to, I feel like the marketing of reaping and of doing this is that it's easy, because you only ever see the highlights. Well, just I feel like with deer, think about Lee and Tiff. You only see them, for the most part, 80% of their huge bucks on their whole show, where they shot at, over a
behind
very
the shoulder,
beautiful food plot, out of a very nice ground. You're not seeing all the times that they went out and they failed. So then your mind associates this. It's like Pavlov's dogs. You ring
food
the dinner
plot
bell.
With success. Yeah.
Food plot equals success. And everybody thinks, food plot equals success. They didn't see the amount of times that they went to the same food plot and the deer didn't show up, or the deer went the other way, or something like that. So you're seeing all these hunts happen on YouTube, stuff like that. And you're like, okay,
well, I think
reaping equals success, and your mind is doing that and making those connections of its own accord.
So we're gonna divert a little bit, and again, want to thank. Was it Brandon?
Yeah, great question.
Great question. Been an awesome controversy, but something new that just happened, right? Pritzker signed into effect allowance of straight wall cartridges, rifle cartridges in Illinois, and if I believe I read the legislation right, it's for a single shot rifle. Now given marketing, there are going to be marketers that jump on top of this, and very soon this season you'll see a lot of guys have a lot of success with this, with these straight wall cartridges and these single shot rifles, and it's going to be because it's a marketing tactic. Now, if you want to shoot 200 yards or 300 yards or further with a legal weapon pre this straight wall cartridge, you could have done that with
a muzzleloader for the last 10 years.
A muzzleloader or a lot of modern shotguns, but because now there's
a market for it.
What I'm saying is there's going to be guys that are traditional to shotguns and muzzleloaders that are going to blame, a decline in deer numbers or buck harvests are up or something because of this straight wall cartridge. But in all reality, when you actually look at it and you break it down and you say, okay, let's look at the 350 Legend, which is what I think is the most superior cartridge that you could pick, my opinion. It has ballistics that are almost identical to a 20 gauge and actually less effective, especially at long range when you're talking about the ballistic coefficient of the bullet, the drop to powder ratio, of a 45 caliber muzzleloader. So again, it's just going to be the message that people are going to be putting out there.
Yeah.
Again, I understand why some people say reaping is stupid easy, because it can be, but so can be calling. That's what I wanted to just make sure and point out. The hunts where
I think we've had more hunts.
Well, I was going to say this.
That have ended before.
The hunts that we have on YouTube, when we were bow hunting in a blind, where we had a blind in the middle of a field, a pop-up blind that wasn't there 12 hours ago, that we set up in the morning and put our decoys out. And we called these turkeys in that ran into the decoys, and I shot them, or you shot them, or Jesse shoots them before sunrise. We don't ever have anybody say, that was cheating. We don't ever.
No.
We don't.
That's a good point.
But it's like, we literally walked 300 yards from the truck, set this pop-up blind up, sat in it, drank coffee before the turkeys woke up. We had our decoys out at 11 yards because we're shooting with our bow. They gobbled off the roost. We got them to pitch down into the field, and we killed, but you don't hear a lot of people saying, that is cheating. That's cheating. What you did is too easy. That is absolutely too easy. That's not right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's funny to me because, and again, you're
picking what you want to dub is easy.
Right. And if I could snap my fingers and every time I'd have that pop-up turkey blind hunt, that's all I do. I wouldn't even need Teddy. Are you kidding me? I could shoot every single turkey for the rest of my life with a bow at 12 yards out of a blind that I got to carry back less than 400 yards in my truck.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. This sounds heavenly.
Yeah.
But the thing is that nobody saw that we freaking hauled that damn 5-hub pop-up blind for 2 miles on the other property and up and down these fucking gargantuan hills to have Tom come out, look at the decoy and go, heep.
and run away.
Run away.
Yep. I feel like it's I feel like this whole problem, and I do agree, like when it happens fast.
It's fast.
And
it looks stupid.
And it looks just ignorantly easy.
Yeah.
But I've seen it fail just as many times as it worked. Like I said, I feel like most turkey hunters aren't going in there with the intention of like, all right, I'm going to wait till way after light. I'm going to wait till turkeys are spinning. Like most of these turkey hunters are kind of doing it like we are, where it's their like second or third backup plan. Mm-hmm. And I feel like going back to your thing about, straight wall cartridges, I feel like on Facebook, on Instagram, who do you follow? Who do you listen to? This is not just a hunting thing. This is just a broader social media thing, which is where these messages are being played and spun at. It's you're listening and seeing all the things that interest you and talking and hearing with people who are essentially the same as you are. You're in your own echo chamber. So next year, when your straight-walled rifle cartridges come out, and let's say who's a manufacturer that's probably going to make their own version of that?
Savage. Remington.
Hopefully
Winchester.
Savage hops on the board with that. And if I was the smart marketing director of Savage, what I would do is I would pull a lot of money, maybe several $100,000 aside to market this rifle as a result of this being pushed out
Thompson
and being
Center
continued to
already
push out. And so you're going to see these messages come up and up and up more. Just like with reaping turkeys, your mind, I feel like, associates it with the fact that it's like really easy. But I would say that you and we've both killed more birds the traditional way than the other way. Mm-hmm. And you built the most realistic, arguably, the most realistic reaper decoy that we could possibly have, where all the stops are pulled out. It's got a pistol grip, 3 legs, like it conceals you and I'm 6'5" and you're 6'3", like we're huge, and it conceals us, but you can't just use it and be ignorant with it. Yeah, there are a few viral videos that would suggest otherwise, but what I think is you ultimately have to read the scenario right in order to be able to use that tool. It is a tool, but you have to use it right still. Just because you got an impact doesn't mean you can, I don't know, fly a kite with an impact driver. That'd be stupid. Right. Why would you want that tool for that scenario, And that's kind of where I feel like I sit on it.
Yeah.
It's a good one, though.
I know where I'm at. I hope we didn't, we always piss somebody off, right? It doesn't matter what we do. You're always going to piss somebody off. Switching gears, though, we have some super important news. Everybody's been kind of talking about the launch party this year because traditionally it's going to be coming up soon. But as we've stated in earlier podcasts, we've pushed it back. We have locked in the date. This year it's going to be at the Adler in Davenport again on August 19th. That is a Friday. Next big question that we've been getting is when we were telling these people these dates, when can we get the tickets? Tickets will become available sometime in June. Probably going to be released after the 4th of July holiday. This year is going to be a little bit more limited. Due to space constraints, we still have plenty of room. We'll still be able to accommodate, thousands of guests, but we're just not going to have near as many tickets. So I'm going to tell you now, because you guys are one of the diehards that are listening to this, that when the tickets go available, make sure you grab them. And if you want to make sure you are one of the first ones to know when, where, and how to get tickets, you need to join our Last Breath Inner Circle, because that's our little family, and that's where they find out everything first. So Last Breath launch party is August 19th at the Adler Theater in Davenport. Friday. Yep. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get tickets, they're going to be available after the 4th of July, and you'll find out where to grab them first at the Last Breath Inner Circle on Facebook.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this one? Like I said, I feel like it's just hunting in general. Where's the line on it being too easy? Which transcends...
there's a lot of... I think from this question of too easy, that's really a systemic question that I think we've had with quite a few controversies, with cellular cameras, with crossbow hunting, with rifle hunting, and I think you could break that down into even different facets. Let's say cellular cameras... Are they okay if you get bi-weekly uploads instead of instant? Mm-hmm. So it'd be the same as checking a trail camera. You go about every 2 weeks and get it, but instead of having to go out there, you just get it. Does that make cell cams okay? I don't know. Crossbows. Okay, well, let's limit them to 250 feet a second. Now all of a sudden, does that change things? Because the 100-yard crossbow guy, or the 400 feet a second crossbow, does that change things? Does it make it a little bit different? Talk about rifles. Now all of a sudden you can use whatever caliber you want, but you need to use a 3x9 scope. Doesn't matter if you're shooting a 50 BMG, but you can't take that 1,000-yard shot near as easily as you could because we've limited you to the magnification. I feel like that the ease of question, the ease of anything can be broken down and asked. But inversely then, how many people have cellular cameras that get instantly upload that don't kill their target buck? A whole shit pot.
Yep,
right?
Lots.
People that go out and buy the latest and greatest 500 feet per second, shoots 2 arrows at once,
Scorpion
crossbow.
Raven type.
Yeah,
Yep.
but still doesn't kill a buck. The guy that has
or wounds one at 10 yards.
Right. That has a $10,000 hunting rifle set up and misses that 550-yard shot on a bear. It all boils down to where I think is like, whether it's reaping turkeys or long-range shooting or food plots, the people that are really obsessed in whatever facet that they're wanting to be in, whether it's land management or if it's archery or if it's guns or turkey hunting, they're the ones that are successful. And they've found out a way that they've cultivated, they've manufactured, they've built with what's in the legal parameters of their state restrictions. They got the best of the best. And the only thing they're going to put the blame is them. It's not going to be their equipment. It's not going to be their farm. It's not, I think more times than not, maybe those guys take a little bit of flack because, unfortunately, a byproduct of success is jealousy. Yeah. So that's where I'm coming to. Maybe that guy that took that 600-yard shot on the bull with his, really nice rifle with a Leica scope, and he's got the, a freaking Savage proof carbon research barrel on top, and it's like, man, that's cheating. Maybe, but you don't know that guy spent, 2 weeks developing a load where he literally was measuring out 1,000th of a grade, worrying about where his bullet's going to land on the lands when he seats it. Like, that guy built that for one purpose, and that's so that if he does have a 600-yard shot, he can do it. If you ask that guy, he'd probably tell you, I'd rather take a 100-yard shot.
Kill him with a bow.
But he's like, I'm playing for keeps,
Yeah.
And just
like that way
just
that
like us with the Reaper decoy. We got tired of literally after the morning gobble because our properties are limited. Like, they go the other way, and we have two options now, Grant. Like, okay, well, we can sit here and call every 20 minutes and hope that we fire one up, or we can go get breakfast. We created Teddy to give us an opportunity because I was going to say this, and Brandon, I will tell you this, that I do think if you do see a turkey out in the field, okay, I do think that you have an easier opportunity. I said easier to reap him than to call him in. Like, if we got in within 80 yards and just stayed behind the hill or behind the ditch line or something and started talking, I think I maybe not, but you would have to be like sitting there like looking over just waiting randomly for him to stick his head up, I guess. I don't know, but I appreciate the ability to look at him, I guess.
Yeah.
But in closing, that's my 2 cents. I feel like if you're as crazy about anything, whether it's paintball, cars, history, guns, hunting, you're going to find a way that's legal for you to do what you want to do to the best of your ability. That's why there's guys rolling around with like $100,000 cars with 16-inch racing flats driving around because they figured out a way to make it street legal. But that son of a bitch can burn a quarter mile in 6 seconds,
Yeah. That's a good point. It would beg the question, like what you're talking about now, I feel like, and you and I have had conversations about this before, which maybe we'll just save this controversy and table it for another day. To what degree can money buy a good hunter? That's a good question that I feel like we're kind of like tippy-toeing into here, because there are probably some people, and I mentioned this on here before, and I would encourage you to watch it because it's probably my favorite whitetail documentary I've ever seen. But it's called The Whitetail Life, I believe, and it's on Under Armour's YouTube channel. Yeah. And it's all about Lee and Tiffany Lukoski and how that Lee was just a very intelligent guy working as an engineer, and Tiffany was working as an airline stewardess, and they just said, screw it, we're going to take the leap. They worked really hard in their jobs, saved up some money, and now became the most notable and recognizable faces of the whitetail hunting world because they took a plunge. However, we could also sit here and say that, with 6,000 plus acres of land and the ability to manage it to a T, I would expect, like, if Lee doesn't kill a 170-inch plus deer every year, I'm like, what happened? In my own mind. It doesn't mean that he didn't hunt his ass off. It doesn't mean that he was out there every single day, all day long, between, October 25th and November 25th. That doesn't mean that at all. It just, I do think there's a line there as well. To what degree can somebody buy being a good hunter? And I feel like, you and I have talked about it, and that's an interesting one as well. So maybe we'll come back to that in a couple future ones. But yeah, either way, this has been a good one. Again, thank you, Brandon Dibble, for the awesome question. Again, hopefully our ramblings and hopefully we went on a coherent enough tangent here to
We're a
be
little rusty.
understood. But to recap, I feel like coming back to the original question, do you think it's unethical?
No, I don't. I think it is very ethical.
And it's legal. Like we said, we kind of do it in stages. This is our clear backup plan. We've killed more turkeys the traditional way, so I don't know. Public land, we believe it to be a little dangerous. What if you're not okay with this, then what animals are you okay with decoying? I just feel like it's a lot of like slippery slope type arguments that kind of pave the way to other questions, but maybe we'll do one on just decoying animals one day, a controversy on that. Decoying animals or calling animals in frontal, because if you're going to decoy an animal in there, a whitetail more than likely isn't going to give you a nice 25-yard broadside shot.
Probably not.
If you're decoying it in.
Probably not.
Similar with elk, but anyway. Yeah, that's been a really good one. A couple would you rathers before we leave here. Would you rather shoot a 2-inch spurred turkey or a triple bearded turkey with no hooks?
2-inch, man. I love hooks.
Okay. Would you rather shoot one, and by one I mean turkeys. Would you rather shoot a turkey first thing off of the roost or at 12:55 after we've got our butt kicked all day?
Off the roost.
I think both of them are rewarding in their own
Off
regard.
the roost. I mean, they would both be rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
But you've said it. We've done it. You killed that one. You killed the freaking
the boobless wonder at we had this turkey
literally 12:57. I remember looking at my phone and
12:57.
showing the freaking camera.
Yeah, 12:57. So,
I don't know what was wrong with that turkey, but that was like the smallest mature tom in the world.
yeah,
Dude had like over-inch hooks,
nice beard,
10-inch
nice
beard,
hooks.
and probably weighed 14 pounds.
I think. Well, what had happened was he broke his leg, and there was also like a little piece on the back of his head that it like was a
Maybe he got hit by a
scab.
fucking car.
I think he either got hit by a car or maybe he flew off the roost a little too early and flew into a limb of a tree or something.
Jesus.
Messed him up, but yeah, he
Here,
was
I got one for you. I was going to ask you this one.
breastless, essentially.
You have to mount the turkey. Would you rather mount him full gobble or mount him in flight?
Trying to picture what a flying turkey would look like, on a wall. I'm kind of imagining like one of those Canada Goose displays where they're kind of like attached to the wall by their breasts. Yeah. I think I would go gobble, like on a limb, gobbling off a limb with, their tail fan just straight back.
Yep.
Cocked back to the front and your snood's kind of like waving
Flipped
up in the air.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like I would probably go with. Yeah. What would you do to that?
I think I'd go gobble too. I don't
flying turkey, that'd be kind of...
You just don't see them very often. Maybe that'd be really neat, but I also feel like a flying turkey, you wouldn't see his beard, you wouldn't see his hooks. So it'd be a really beautiful... You'd see all the feathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that'd look nice, but...
Would you rather kill a Grand Slam turkey run this year or a specifically low 150s whitetail with a gun? A whitetail?
Mm-hmm.
No turkey slam? What if I threw a smoke phase turkey into that mix?
Is it a tom?
Yeah, they're all toms.
Mm.
It's a tom slam of all the species and all of like the cool stuff. Like
yeah.
So
I don't know. I'd probably honestly
Merriam
that would change my answer. Just because smoke colored or those color phased birds, they're so gorgeous. A couple of years ago, there was that guy that shot that copper colored one over in Orion. I got to see that.
That was cool.
It was gorgeous.
Like
and
a caramel.
Don't get me wrong, I love whitetails, and especially you had me when you said specific, because that means it's a deer that we have history with, which always adds to the thing. But man, a smoke colored, a true, natural wild smoke colored tom. That would be. You'd probably never have that again.
Probably not.
We don't have any color phase birds on any of our farms. We hunt 3 different counties.
Matt thinks he got a smoke colored phase 1 on the farm I just got, but
thanks.
I don't know. I could see it going either way. It does look pretty light in the picture, but we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, anything you'd like to add?
No. We'll
All
see you next Monday.
Don't waste it.